Welcome to the Hidden Bookcase. Come through and get cozy. Pick a book, your favourite book, that's the one that opens this room. Inside you'll find a warm fire, a loving cat, and a wide skylight to the stars.
And a dangerously high to be read pile.
I'm Morgan, I use they them pronouns, and I am the significant others we made along the way.
I'm Sorren, I use he him pronouns, and I am a parasitic dandelion.
We've been friends for over a decade and are always swapping books.
Each fortnight we take it in turns to recommend one another a favourite read. The first time reader tells us what they know about the book, makes some predictions about what they don't, and then we discuss our thoughts with all of you bookworms. On our shelf this month is Cozy Fantasy.
So today, let's get to talking about
Withered by Catherine Yeates and The Cunning Plan by Julie Bozza from Wyngraf's 2023 Romance Special.
So, Sorren.
Yes.
Tell me about how you found Wyngraf, and also specifically this edition.
Because we were doing a Cozy Fantasy month, we were vaguely talking about maybe doing some short stories for it, something a little bit special for the last Monday. I went looking for Cozy Fantasy short stories, Wyngraf being the only Cozy Fantasy magazine that exists thus far, and having only started in 2022, immediately came to my attention. I read the first 2 volumes that are out. By the time we put this episode out, the 3rd volume will also be out, but they are collections of Cozy Fantasy stories by a wide range of authors. The Valentine's Day edition had just come out. We're recording this in early March, so it's been out for a little while now, and they were both queer, so I was like, hey, we should do them on the show, why not?
I don't know why I didn't trust you that they were going to be queer. I was like, oh, romance, interesting. And then they were with queer, I was like, queer romance.
So, there's 2 short stories. This is a little collection. If you are going to go check out Wyngraf, most of the volumes have a couple more, maybe about a dozen each. And there's Withered by Catherine Yeates, which is about Archie, whose mother's rose garden is in a terrible, terrible state. He's desperate to fix it before she gets back because she's planning to get married in said rose garden. And to do so, he has to talk to Felix, his former roommate, who is a necromancer who he fell out with after leaving university. The second story is The Cunning Plan. Konak, the human with a little bit of elf ancestry, is on a quest of curious intention. He's on a little journey, and he meets an elf called Emilion, and the elf offers to travel alongside him, allow him to enjoy his company, and it's just about that little journey together. Shall we listen to your blind reaction?
Yes.
I'm very curious as to what this is going to be like, because you had nothing to go on.
I think it's pretty blind.
Right, okay, quick fire, what do I know about Wyngraf? Basically nothing. I know that it's a Cozy Fantasy magazine. I know that this edition is a Valentine's edition, so I'm expecting romancy vibes. Maybe particularly queer vibes? Probably? I don't know. The cover is beautiful. It's very, rich colours, which I love. Doesn't tell me much, but, Valentine's tells me what I need to know. Yeah, I have no predictions. I'm just expecting a vibey, cozy fantasy time. Yeah.
Short and sweet.
Short and sweet.
To the point.
With a short story collection, it's extremely difficult to come up with predictions.
I had no information going in.
But, I mean, you were correct.
Yeah, there was romance.
Cozy fantasy vibes, I think so. We'll have to have another discussion, I think, after our very interesting one on Secret Society, which I'm assuming will end up in the episode, about what actually constitutes cozy fantasy, because I think there is a little bit of a debate to be had here.
Yes.
Coziness levels notwithstanding. Shall we talk about the cover, since you mentioned it?
Yes. It's real pretty, and it's nice and symmetrical. It tells me literally nothing about the stories.
See, I feel like maybe this one was drawn with a little bit of withered in mind, because you have flowers. I don't think they're necessarily roses, but I'm not very good on my flowers. And you have the moths, which are specifically mentioned on Felix's jacket.
I thought you were pointing at the birds.
No.
I was like, I don't think those are moths, sorry.
I think those are just doves to go with the whole romance vibe.
Fair.
I do really like the art style of the cover. Honestly, I think all of the Wyngraf covers are really nice, and as we're recording this, the 3rd one just came out, and I'm obsessed with the very soft pink colour palette of it.
Ooh, love a good soft pink.
I love what they're doing.
Yes.
We're doing the very weird thing of talking about 2 stories at once, which we've literally never done before. Should we do one at a time? What do you reckon?
Yeah.
Should we just start with Withered because it's first?
Okay.
What's your first impression?
It didn't whelm me. I had fun reading it. It was nice. I wanted more of the 2 main characters. I was more interested in their backstory than I was in what they were doing now.
Yeah.
I literally thought they were exes the whole time. I was like, what do you mean this isn't a second chance romance? What's going on? You're just friends? But yeah, I was more interested in and they were roommates. The roses? Yeah. They were roses. I liked the magic system though. That was fun with the little cleaning spells rumbling up and covering everything in dirt. That was really fun. That was really cool.
Yeah, I think Yeates does a really good job with establishing rules for the magic system that are like simple and easy to grasp in a really short space of time.
Mm.
When the little twist about the dandelions comes in, you've kind of had it foreshadowed enough that it's understandable. Maybe
Yeah.
not something that you could necessarily predict, but you can follow the logic of it. It doesn't feel like it comes out of nowhere. And then it's a cute callback. Having reread it, at the very beginning, Archie mentions how great the dandelions look in the field. And
Mm.
you know at that point that it's just a trick of the perspective, but actually they're massive and he's just standing too far away to realise that they're huge, which is quite funny.
We are 2 for 2 on concerning flowers.
Concerning yellow flowers.
Yeah. There was no skeleton under this one, though, so...
Well, that's what you think. What really happened to Archie's dad? Or maybe that's where Archie's grandmother is.
Ooh.
She's a ghost. We don't know what her actual body is.
Ooh.
Felix would know.
Felix knew the whole time. He engineered this whole situation just to get an in.
Just to get some bones. Now we're playing into the negative necromancer stereotypes.
They were cute, though. They were cute.
When I think cozy fantasy, this is pretty perfect as an encapsulation of it. The stakes are very low. The vibes are very cozy. The prose is very picturesque.
I think there was slightly too low stakes, maybe.
Yeah.
I needed slightly more to be invested in. Maybe that's just me being like, maybe cozy fantasy like isn't actually my genre. But like, I feel like I needed slightly more to latch onto.
In comparison. Should we do it like that?
I mean, spoiler alert, I really loved The Cunning Plan.
Did you? Okay, I think we have different preferences then. That's really interesting.
Ooh.
So let's go on to The Cunning Plan then.
I loved it. I thought it was so well written. The way it starts and just throws you in immediately and just puts you into the same place as the protagonist, I thought was such a brilliant way to start it, especially as a short story. I thought that dynamic was just so cute. It had a good way of concealing the information, but still giving you enough to go on. It was really soft, but it had a little bit of danger in there. And at the end, they got married, and that was real cute. When they reintroduced each other at the other end in the other kingdom, giving each other eyes, I was like, this is incredible. I'm obsessed with this. It was perfect as a short story, but I'm also like, give me everything, please.
You could definitely have a whole novel's worth of banter from these two.
I need good, mysterious banter
Mm-hmm.
in my romances, I feel like. The other one was a bit too vanilla.
You haven't jumped each other's bones yet.
Well, not even just like vanilla and just the like, we're talking to each other. We're vibing. We're not really disagreeing on anything, but we're also not hiding anything from each other. And I'm like, that's great for you. I need a slight amount of friction. I need some intrigue. I need some like, ooh, we're learning each other. What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
I need some tentativeness.
Yeah, I can see that.
I need some gestures. There was no romantic gestures in the first one.
Yeah, they're kind of just working together on something and then apologizing.
Which is very cute and very healing, and I love that. And I'm recognizing now that maybe cozy fantasy just isn't my genre.
But that's fair. That's like part of the reason why we're doing it is try different things.
Slice of life within fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
I like a good slice of life, but I need the other stuff that shows that this is just a slice. I need this to be like a fan fiction scene that would never make it into the original movie, you know?
Yeah, I was actually literally just about to bring that up, that element of fan fiction where you will be happy to read them doing anything incredibly low stakes because you know about all of the depth and all of the horrible stuff that they've gone through in the main canon. It changes the flavour. It's like adding a little salt to your cookies to bring out the sweetness of the chocolate.
Exactly.
I can empathise with that.
Whereas these guys were just nerds. Which, you know, I support. I love a good nerd romance. But I want it from Felix's point of view. Necromancer's instantly more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It just brings more spice. Like, it wouldn't work at the same way. But from Felix's perspective of this is so oblivious. And now he's dragged me in to deal with stuff I don't know about. And I'm just going to stare at him until he figures out that we're in love. And also I can do bones, motherfucker. I think I would have enjoyed that.
So I'm assuming you vibed more with the writing style in Cunning Plan then, as well.
Yeah. It was very sort of in and out. It was crafted to be a short story. It had atmosphere, but still a little bit of plot, because short stories are basically just atmosphere or plot crammed in. Whereas the other one was kind of just like, here's a little snippet. This was like, I am made to be a short story. I have a beginning and I have an end. I go in really well and I go out really well. It has pace.
Mm-hmm. I was actually biased towards the first one, honestly, because I found with the second one I couldn't picture the world. We didn't get any description of the tavern or the journey. I was like, they could be in a desert or a forest, and I don't know.
Yeah, but you know exactly what the author means if they don't describe a fantasy tavern. You know exactly what you've got in your head.
Yeah.
I ain't got time for that, Sorren.
I think there is something to be said for being sparse with it, especially with something like this. If you wrote this in the style of the first one, it would become so long because you would be labouring over details. So I do appreciate that it's a more complex setup, and therefore you do need to be a bit more economical with it. I wanted a little bit more of scene setting, but reading it again, I read them both back to back the first time I read them. Next page, immediately onto the next one. When I reread them, I read the first one and then I left it a few days and then I read the second one, and I liked the second one a lot more on that second reading, because I think I was in the wrong mindset the first time I read it, where I was expecting the same tone, and then it felt like it jarred me. But then when I read it as its own separate thing, I appreciated the writing style a lot more.
I get that. I just really vibed with their writing style. Arrive late, leave early.
Yeah.
Some people don't know how to do that. Where I feel like this is the perfect story that knows when it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And doesn't give you any more than it needs to. It gives you the bare bones and lets you fill in everything else.
Mm-hmm.
And the dynamic was just so cute.
The dynamic was very fun.
It's just like, you need to sleep. I'll stay with you. And also we can sleep together.
I don't think the author ever actually specifies that elves don't need to sleep, which I feel like we both got automatically being Dungeons and Dragons nerds. I do wonder if that would have confused somebody. I don't know if that's a Lord of the Rings thing as well. I think that they sleep. I can't remember.
Maybe they take turns.
I didn't think that they did because Emilian was sitting in his chair, sort of waiting for his partner to wake so that they could then have another round. Maybe they did take turns.
I love how they're just like, yeah, we're both attracted to each other.
Yeah.
I can also help you actually go to bed for once. Let's do it. I love that for them.
I do like the dynamics sort of starts off as more platonic. Not even platonic, but just sort of functional. They're like, yeah, you're hot. I want to sleep with you. We'll do that. And then we'll be travelling companions. It'll be useful. It's like the opposite of finding home, somehow.
Yes.
Who was your favourite then, across all of these?
I liked the protagonist of A Cunning Plan. He was just vibing. He accidentally picked up a prince. What do you do? Solved all of his country's war problems just by sleeping with a hot guy.
Just by being hot.
Absolutely iconic.
Because it was Emilian that was like, I want to know what's in your riches. He didn't even come on to him. He was just asleep on a table.
Who's your favourite?
I think I liked Felix.
Yep.
Yeah, unpredictable. It was like the politeness, but the fact that he was smart about magic, etc. Also the dress sense. I did like his little outfit at the wedding. The moth lapel pin. I liked all of those little details actually in that scene, like the dryad coming back and having a living ivy on her dress. That was fun.
I feel like I should ask, why did you like that one more than A Cunning Plan?
I mean, it might have been going and wanting cozy fantasy. It definitely did feel cozier. Possibly because there was no murder or sieges in it.
What's the point then, Sorren? So our last cozy fantasy had murder. The one before it had murder.
It didn't have murder. There was no actual murder in Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches.
That was close enough.
There was threatened murder, that was all.
It's close enough.
That's not the same, nah.
I did spend half the book misremembering and thinking that the girls actually did murder Lillian. And I'd just forgotten that it was a heart attack for like half the book.
Oh my god, imagine if they had. What on earth?
You know, it tracks.
Okay. Does it?
Yeah, they're just like covering it up because they're like, we can't let the girls get separated.
What would their motivation be for murdering Lillian?
It was an accidental murder. They had uncontrollable magic.
I think I would have been into that, to be honest. Yeah.
See?
I do like that.
More murder in my cozy fantasy, please. It's definitely not my genre.
Yeah, I think maybe it was just going and expecting cozy fantasy. That kind of met my expectations. And I liked the more florid writing style. And I liked the little world-building elements of this dryad that helps everyone with the plants in the village. And, you know, you just have a ghost in your basement and maybe you occasionally have tea with her or maybe she just screams at you to clean your house. I did like as well Archie's little discussion about his sexuality, where his ex had broken up with him on the assumption that he was gay. And he was like, I'm not gay. I like who I like. I thought that was a nice, nuanced and succinct discussion without feeling didactic. Like, it felt natural.
I think it's one of those stories that I would appreciate more on a reread because it does feel like a fanfiction scene. I feel like I need to know the characters in order to care about the story.
Morgan, you were the new reader. What did you think of these two stories?
I overall vibed. I read it very quickly in bed. It was nice. I think overall I rated it a 4, but separately I would rate them a 3 and a 5. And I think I must bow out from cozy fantasy slightly.
You're gonna give yourself a break.
I must admit defeat. I need a little bit more murder in my cozy fantasy.
You've learned something about yourself this month.
Yes. How did you rate this?
I also, I think, would give this a 4. I'd probably be more like a 4 and a 3 even, or maybe not. I feel like you've kind of sold me on the cunning plan now, actually. Like, the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm like, nah, this is at least a 4. So I guess they're kind of both a 4.
Nice.
You know, neither of them completely blew me away and knocked my socks off, but I did enjoy both of them a lot. They were both just, like, well-crafted, short and sweet. Although we didn't have the debate of does the cunning plan count as cozy fantasy, which I would say maybe not. I don't know if it's cozy to be under siege, but then the vibes are very cozy because it's really all just about this romance, and there's only one murder on page, and it's not even gory, so
It's not about the angry planet, it's about the long way there.
that's true.
If you look at this Long Way to a Small Angry Planet,
hmm
there is like full-on genocide in that book.
That's a very good point, and it is kind of still, I would argue, it's got cozy vibes to it, a cozy atmosphere. And also, I mean, if I'm saying hiding a body isn't cozy, then a very secret society of irregular witches also can't be cozy.
Yeah,
So,
you're just restricting the genre, Sorren.
you know, and honestly, this was quite romantic, hiding a body, so
Exactly.
important to their romantic development. So, therefore,
Because then you'd also have to eliminate Legends and Lattes, because that's got the mafia.
I am eliminating those as well, as we've established that.
We're just cutting down the genre one book at a time.
I don't think I'm personally the one who gets to decide whether... I'm not the final arbiter of cozy fantasy, so if you're listening to this and you're like, Sorren, shut the f*** up, you can ignore me.
It's what Jen said. It has a different definition for everybody.
Exactly, it means different things to different people. But, yes, very cute collection, very fun. I will be continuing to read the Wyngraf stuff in the future. Do you have any recommendations, Morgan?
Well, I'm not going to recommend A Marvellous Light, because I feel like we do that every episode.
I mean, it is a similar vibe, though. It's difficult not to.
Got 2 recommendations. The
Mhm.
first is All the Birds in the Sky by Charlie Jane Anders,
Mm-hmm.
which is second chance romance, childhood friends to estranged to lovers. And they're both nerds, but one's a computer scientist and the other one is a witch. And it's also eco-fantasy-esque, slightly dystopia. And then the other one. Yeah, none of these are particularly cozy.
That's fine.
But we move. I mean, All the Birds in the Sky is kind of cozy because it feels low stakes, except for the fact that it's all about like trying to fix climate change, but it still weirdly feels low stakes. And then the other one, I'm going to recommend Kith and Kin from the Vox Machina novels by Marieke Nijkamp. That is high fantasy. It's romance. We're in a siege. We're fighting people. But also there's 2 sides, and each of the twins is on a different side. And is like, why are you on the other side? You're just doing this because you think that rebel is hot. And Vax is like, I mean, maybe.
But that is not a crime. Can I also sort of throw in as a possible mutual recommendation, Finding Home by Harry Connor?
Of course.
It's kind of like the best of both of these 2 stories, in a way. You've got some plant magic, you've got some real lush environments in the form of graphic novel rather than in the form of prose, and you have falling in love on a journey together.
And there's also pushing each other away and then coming back together.
Yeah, exactly. I would argue that's definitely cozy, and that's a 5-star read for you, so...
Because there's so much trauma in it, Sorren.
So it can be cozy, but it also just needs to be really, really sad.
Yeah. They need to be deeply, deeply traumatized and then have to deal with that deeply, deeply traumatized.
I did have one other recommendation, and I have been reading a lot of Uncanny magazine, if you just listen to A Very Secret Society. Why do you ask? But there's a short story in issue 48 of the Uncanny magazine called The Portal Keeper by Lavie Tidhar, which is very cute. It's a diary format. It's about someone who tends the portal and sees all the people going off to their adventures, doesn't really interfere, just sort of tends her cottage beside the portal. And there's a little romance as well with someone who keeps coming through the portal. A sapphic romance, if I remember correctly, as well, so also queer.
Yes.
Fun, not very long, only like 5,000 words, also free to read. I'll link it in the show notes.
Incredible vibes.
I don't really know why it reminds me of these 2, it just does somehow. Next time, it's June. And we have decided... I'm regretting this so much. Next time. For our 1-year anniversary, indeed, we'll have been doing Hidden Bookcase for a year. We're trying to come up with, a suitably celebratory theme, and we are going to be reading books with prominent water themes for the aptly titled Moist Month.
Moist month.
And we will be starting... Morgan, tell us what we'll be starting with. It's your book.
We'll be starting with, just to keep this comedy mood, we'll be starting with Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield.
Very light and funny from what I've heard, definitely.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
so fun.
Hilarious.
Delightful.
I'm immensely looking forward to that. You mentioned that maybe when we started the show.
Ooh.
I think so. It's
Vibes.
been a long time coming. And we are so looking forward to talking about it.
Yes. Until then, you're always welcome through the bookcase.
Don't forget to scratch the cat on your way out. Thank you for listening to The Hidden Bookcase, a production of Planar Prod. On this episode you heard Morgan Greensmith and Sorren were discussing Wyngraf's 2023 Cozy Fantasy Romance Special. You can find out more about this book at wyngraf.com. You can find Catherine Yeates, author of Withered, at cjyates.com or on Twitter at Histidine. You can find Julie Bozza, author of The Cunning Plan, at juliebozza.com or on Twitter at juliebozza. You can find The Hidden Bookcase on Twitter at Hidden Bookcase and on Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr and TikTok at Hidden Bookcase Podcast. Find out more about Planar Prod at planarprod.com. Know what we should read next, or want to chat to us about what you thought of this episode's read? You can reach us at thehiddenbookcase@gmail.com, or send us a DM on social media. We'd love to hear from you. If you're enjoying The Hidden Bookcase, please consider leaving us a rating or review, or you can always tell a friend how to find us. Your whispers are the best way for bookworms to discover our show. June is Moist Month at The Hidden Bookcase, and on our next episode, which will be out on Monday, June the 12th, we'll be discussing Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. We hope to see you then, and in the meantime, you're always welcome through the bookcase.